Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Interviewing, you can see how tough they were. They weren't. Were they in the military? Is this their second career? Did they spend the first 25 or 30 years in the military? Did they go to West Point? Did they go to Sandhurst? Did they go to the Naval Academy, etc.? Have they been in combat? There's very few guys in combat now. But you want people that are tough, that will literally have your back. Now they say, I've got your six. How they talk like that shit. When the kids say that, they don't know what the fuck that means. They don't. They heard it on a movie. So, but you need to have somebody tough. And you've heard all this. On John's board, I'm the tough guy. On the boards that I'm the tough guy. On Andres' board, I'm the tough guy. Although we've got a very, very tough vice chairman, very tough guy. But otherwise, because, you can be in a car accident. You can be in a coma. And decisions have to be made. You want them to favor you, not the shareholders. Now, the lawyer won't say it that way, but you've got to make it crystal clear that you're the main beneficiary. Or in my case, my trust is the main beneficiary. No questions. No questions. And then you'll preserve the principle. I told somebody, I think, here at the seminar, rich people aren't interested in, really wealthy people, aren't interested in a return on their investment. They're interested in a return of their investment. They're not interested in 2%, 9%, 14%, or 0.5%. They want to make sure the fucking money comes back. Only minions are worried about inflation. With no fucking money. Minions. When I was with these billionaire guys at the funeral, 2 or 3, and it's not a thing that you talk about money, a good buddy just passed away, but the 2 or 3, getting juiced up, Sally and I started the Bloody Marys and the drinks, and 4 or 5 drinks into it, they were talking about, yeah, I doubled my money in this. They talk about doubling their money. I tripled my money. I didn't get 6% ROI. Poor people talk like that. They used to say, I want to get my money back in 12 months. A poor investment in the oil and gas business is getting your money back in 3 years. That's a poor investment. 100% money back in 3 years. Well, if you figure that out, that's still a very high rate of return. But, the best is I got my money back in a day. You have to change your framework. And when you change your framework, your employees will change your framework. They'll start looking at rates of return differently. They'll buy a company for 10 million or 100 million. And if we had to, how soon could we get our money back? How soon could we get our money back? Now, you're having a special advantage because you've got no money in. If you follow the model exactly. Andres, all this money that he's made, the 62% of 80 million or whatever it is free. His return is infinite. Infinite. And when you change your frame of thought, when you look at deals, and your M&A team, because eventually you'll have an M&A team, and your M&A team changes their framework, the kinds of deals you look at and the kinds of deals you will change dramatically. The complexion of the deals will change dramatically. And then you start to make, big, big money. And one of the reasons that the sovereign funds come to me is because I already think that way. So they don't have to re-educate me. Because I know, the Norwegian fund, which was here 4 or 5 years ago, spent a couple of days with us because they're going to run out of oil. They're planning for it, unlike the UK. They've got $1.3 trillion now. When they came here, they just crossed over $1 trillion. And what are we going to do when the North Sea dies? And it's going to die someday. And Scotland wants to be independent. Anyway, that's a whole other story. It's going to die someday. And what are we going to do? And the Norwegian sovereign fund is probably the best poised for running out of oil, because their oil will not last as long as Kuwait, Saudi, Emirates, and all those people. I heard last week to get oil out of the UAE, was it UAE? $2 to get it to the surface, a barrel. $2. It's 82 pounds in the North Sea. Was it from you? No. Now that you're running with the big hitters over there, Yeah. If you run into this kid that's with the prince, just turn around, walk the other way. Who's my 5:30? 6? 6:30? Okay. Now, they're not secrets, but if you don't do anything else, we're going to get back to the board, etc. If you don't do anything else, how, not why, being effective versus being liked. Remember that sticks and stones hurt you, not words, and fear is false expectations appearing real, and you treat the sellers this way. Now, you heard the Goomba brothers said that they warmed this guy up for a year before they bought him. Okay. Massaged him, he said, I think was the word. But the way they massage people is not the way you massage them. It wasn't because they were nice to him. It wasn't because they were decent to him. It's that they slapped him around. That's what they mean by massage. You fucking moron. There's another month gone by with no succession plan. What, are you going to die falling into your computer? As opposed to the way you and your friends. You heard him say, bless you, you heard him say that they did away, not with all the people they knew, but almost all the people they knew. You heard Tony say that. And it's not that you don't say hello, et cetera, et cetera. The only person they haven't done away with is their mom, who's still on the payroll. And it's not easy. The reason I moved here in 1981 is to get away from the familia. And for those of you that come from those kind of ethnic backgrounds, you know what it's like. It's a motherfucker. And to date, we've only had, other than my kid brother and my father and my stepmother, nobody's visited me in 37 years. Normally, they'd be intense, like the homeless here, my relatives. They'd be intense. It'd look like a park, homeless park in London. They don't even watch me on YouTube because they might hear what I just said. Okay, I'm where I want to be. Other than questions, I have nothing more to say for right now because I am where I'm supposed to be in the seminar. It always amazes me how somehow I get to the right spot. I've only done it 9 million times, but any questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yes. How can we incorporate an aggressive board member and not get fucked in the process?
How can we incorporate?
Incorporate.
Why are you incorporating? You're using a different word. You mean recruit?
Yes, to the board.
Where are you from?
Spain.
Another pendejo. Jesus Christ. I should have remembered, but I didn't know. I try to block it out. I try to block my Spanish blood out of me. I mean, I try to, My family's from Segovia, and they're really pendejos there. I mean, they were, exactly, full of shit. They were born asleep, and they spent the rest of their life asleep. And they only get woken up to maybe have a little sex once in a while and a little food. Then they take another siesta. Okay. How do you get an aggressive guy or gal to join your board and then not have them fuck you? That's a question. Okay. With great difficulty. Okay. First of all, it's somebody the opposite of you, the antithesis of you. Military background is good. Been in hostile takeover fights with big companies they've been with. Lost. Hopefully they've won, but I mean, sometimes you don't win hostile takeovers. I've been in two, won both. But You want that kind of background. In their background, martial arts isn't always the answer. Sometimes it is, because they got pussy martial arts and tough martial arts. Guys that were Golden Gloves champion, in boxing. I like boxing the best because a lot of the other martial arts aren't full contact. The Olympians, All-American, All-World athletes. Marcus Bauer, even though he's gotten his leadership skills, he was a world-class athlete at one time, but he'll be quick to remind you that he's not anymore. They have performed at a high performance level at something. Going to medicals isn't high performance shit. Astronauts, my old buddy. But at the end of the day, it's eyeball to eyeball. If you interviewed all the people in this room, there'd be 4 or 5, you, pendejo, interview these people in the room, there'd be 4 or 5 of the people in this room, they would stand out. And you have a template, the questions you ask. Okay? Are their hands perspiring when you interview? Most of you, your hands perspire. I always say you wipe your hands before you meet anybody. Do they stutter? When people laugh, like we've got a couple of gigglers and laughers in here because you're insecure. Giggling and laughing is a coping mechanism because you don't feel well. You don't feel at ease, I should say. Do they look you straight in the eye? And then you want a model. Don't use me as a model because you're never going to find anybody like me, or very seldom. But somebody that, for example, don't use Warren Buffett as a model. Steve, well, you never met him, but I used to study the videos of Churchill, John Kennedy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Adolf Hitler. They didn't have many videos of Stalin. How they talk, their mannerisms, these people that you're interviewing. Most of the people you're going to interview are going to look down. Or if they went to a How to Win Friends and Influence People seminar by Dale Carnegie, they may try to look you in the eye. Are their hands steady? Do they wiggle their feet? Are they calm? If you make somebody nervous, you, pendejo, then they're the wrong person. I mean, they're just the wrong person. Yeah. Now, in the old days, priests and nuns used to be calm. Okay. At the funeral I was at, I went up to the nuns and they were old-time nuns, the old habits. There's not too many of those around anymore. I went up and told them that, and they sang, and they were really lovely. It sounded great. And they happened to be the order one of the orders, the Holy Family, that I support. Not that group, but another group. And I told them that I helped build a mission down, and I helped build a mission in Sri Lanka for them. And the older nun was calm, serene, like in the movies. The younger nuns were all giggly. Well, the older nun had seen some shit. Okay? And you don't want them laughing when you interview. You don't want them giggling. You want like an old-time priest, an old-time nun from the movies. And most senior people that are worth a damn don't talk, about minutia. Don't talk about, little things. They don't ask, how's the weather? How are your kids? That's all horseshit. That's like when you put in a letter, I hope this finds you well. Who gives a fuck? They cut to the chase. And then at the end of the interview, if I can add value, I'm very interested. Subject to conflicts. And the truth of the matter is you don't add value, but they haven't figured that out yet. And once you've been around a super high performance person that is kind of a quasi ball buster, and all the senior executives I had the privilege of working for, with, above, or and below, all are driven, laser beam focused, committed, don't talk bullshit. All of them. Whether it was Onassis, the military, Siemens. And for the most part, the kids, not just you, but the groups, haven't been around. Now, I was very impressed by our principal of my school, Doris Place. For an educator, he was value for money. Principal of the little school. I mean, he said all the right things. He was, but it's still going to be trial and error. Now, when you use a headhunter, which we're using headhunter right now, one of my deals, when you tell them, you describe what you want, like I just described, some of the big headhunting firms say, I'm sorry, we can't find that kind of person. The better headhunting firms won't even lie to you. Those people are like hen's teeth now, Mr. Peña. That's a dying breed. There aren't any of those. They won't even waste your time. Because those people are like hen's teeth. They're a dying breed. But they're still around. And they're gals. But you just don't go out willy-nilly and find them. And to get to where some of you aspire to, or you say you aspire to, those are the kind of people you need. Now, most of them will start and they'll build their board up over 5 or 6 or 7 years, and they'll end up with those people. That's okay, but you're going to pay. Some of you are so cheap you don't want to pay for the people on the way up. But remember, these boards are in transition. These boards are in transition. And very few people that are $25 million or 25 million pound directors will be 500 million pound directors. Very few. Occasionally. But if they've come from a board of 500 million pounds, if they've come from a board of 2 million pounds, there's a reason they're there. Most of the kids go out and get somebody, and the shit, LinkedIn's good, but 30 or 40%. It's like I worked on a $11 billion deal. Okay, fine. Just let me, a couple questions about your CV. This $11 billion deal you did in 2007. Yes. Exactly where in the pecking order in the food chain were you on that deal? And as soon as they go, next. They were a junior auditor on the deal, but the way it's written, they led the deal. Now, all the deals that I led the deal. There's nothing wrong with being a junior auditor. You got to start someplace. But you're not bringing him on the board or her on the board because, we used to say, but now it's hard. We used to tell the headhunters, we want only people that were in the top 2 or 3 people on a deal. Otherwise, we don't want it listed on their CV. And then they've got no candidates. Another way is to change if you use headhunters, and we do, I have, is to change the way you pay the headhunters. Okay. Some of the big headhunters, you pay whether they find you somebody or not. They give you 3 candidates to fulfill your and you got to pay them either way. I don't do those contracts. If it takes 5 years, I'm paying for somebody you're going to find me, ultimately. And most of the good people that you're going to find are working someplace else. For executive directors, for CEO and CFO. That's not necessarily the case because you can be a non-executive director and be in 3 or 4, 5, 6 boards. Normally, the big companies, the big 4 and the big law firms give you 1 or 2 years to feather your nest for you to go find out other directorships. So when you do retire, you're getting, if you're a director of BP, you're getting 250,000, 300,000 pounds plus expenses to travel. all you need is 4 or 5 of those, and they're making probably more than they made when they were working full time. But the guys that were the head of M&A at the big companies, the guys that were, it's interesting. Warren Buffett's successor, for those of you that aren't aware, and I hope to talk to Warren when I'm there at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting in a couple of weeks, is the former head of oil and gas of a big Canadian exploration company. And he ran the energy division for Berkshire Hathaway, and he's going to succeed Warren when he passes away. Oil and gas exploration is the last bastion of gunslingers. The last bastion of shoot now, ask questions later. The last killers. And who does Warren pick? An oil and gas cut and slash man to take over his staid company. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. Oil and gas guys, especially exploration guys, are normally tough as fucking nails. If they rose to a high position. Not if they're a senior engineer on the North Sea, rig 52. But they're there. And it's how much work you want to put in to find them. But you're going to have time before the first acquisition. They're either going to perform or not going to perform. They're either going to return your calls or not return your calls. They're either going to work on the deal on the weekends or not work on the deal. Because you're going to find out very quickly. But some of you have been taught, you're high and lofty Europeans, you won't even call them on the weekend. Now, you were on a Sunday in a hotel when you saw those administrators walk by, if I remember the story, right? So you were there with a lawyer already on the weekend. Well, a few years ago, you couldn't get a goddamn Brit. I know you're Scottish, but you couldn't get a Scot to meet anybody on the weekend. I'm sure it's still not easy. I'm sure it's still not easy. Because this is the 1740s here. It's still there are people up here that still won't give you their cell number because they're permanently at the weekend. But you can find, that's a long-winded answer how to find those guys. But the second part of the question is how do you keep them from cutting your throat? There's no real way. There's no real way. I'd like to tell you, but there's no real way. But you'll be drawn to somebody from Spain. You'll be drawn to somebody that speaks, Spanish. Wrong. Most, and they're called Latinx now, just in case you don't know. They're called Latin, what a fucking cunt, wishy-washy name. The Latinx people are witchy-watchy, as my grandmother would say. Weak. But if you have an Asian, a woman, a black, military couple that have gone into business afterwards, you want to spread. Not a spread because it's popular, it's PC now. Because one of those groups, will be a hidden assassin. And I've developed over the years, they weren't assassins to begin with, but when they see it's all right to do, not real assassins, but when they really understand it's all right to be aggressive. I've seen some women, boy, flip to the dark side like, brushing your teeth. It's okay to be aggressive. Because women in business are normally told not to be aggressive. In fact, in some areas of the world, aggressive women are looked down upon. They want to be separated from. Because no guy likes getting their ass chewed out by a gal. Myself included, I've never met a man that, will allow himself knowingly to be put in a position to get his butt chewed out by a gal. And that's part of why the system's fucked up. And, even though the pay gap is closing between men and women, it's certainly not closing fast enough. But I know some, the Viking bitch is as good as you're going to get as a female leadership. And you heard her be honest with you. She made a bunch of mistakes. But she makes infinitely fewer mistakes than most gals. Infinitely fewer. But she's got, at least one tough bastard on the board, her chairman. But you saw when she talked about when her husband went away and got deployed. And if there was any wrong time for him to go off to war, it was that week. When all the shit fell on her. But we all know that that's the way life is. Any other questions? Okay, I'll see my 5:30 at 5:30. And tonight we eat in there, I believe. When's your clothes coming, Doofus Brothers? What were they going to 2 a.m. or? Are those the same clothes you got here in? Fuck. So what I'm smelling now. Okay. Well, I know it wasn't her, and I was, but it might have been him. Okay. And my smell is bad. Now they say my nostrils are blown because of the cocaine, but that's not true. I mean, my smelling is bad. So it'll be. You got regular clothes though, suit. I mean, they're both gone. Yeah. So your parents taught you how to dress and shit like that. Okay, that's good. Okay, kids, we'll see you later. Thank you.